live now? Yeah, we're live. Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sports Crew. Your host, Javi, and we have my co-host, Matt Martinez.
What's up,
Matt, if you
guys?
want to introduce yourself,
How you guys doing today on this lovely morning?
what you do, maybe Gale guide.
What I do, I guess on campus, I'm a Gale guide here on campus. I'm a residential student, big time Yankee fan. Some other things too. I'm a Maroon maniac, so definitely join that club if you're here on campus. And then also, I'm a double major in accounting and finance.
Great, great. Tavi, manager for the men's basketball team, also a campus minister, and also a Yankee fan. As you see the description today, we're going to be talking about the Yankees. I know you seen last night they clinched.
Oh yeah,
How are you feeling coming into October, man? What do you
the team's definitely in a better state than it was, I would say, 3 weeks ago. They look good. They're getting healthy again, which is really nice to see. They're kind of beating up again on the bad teams, which is kind of what you have to do if you want to make the playoffs. As long as you go about 500 versus the good teams and you beat up on the bad teams, you're going to have a winning record. So it seems like they're starting to finally take care of some business here.
No, yeah, I agree. I was gonna ask how far you think we go.
It's a good question. I definitely think it should be the American League Championship, but any further than that, I think depends on what happens in the other series between the Astros and whoever wins. If we face the Astros, I don't know how much I like our chances, but I would I would love to beat the Astros finally after 3 years of failing, or 2 years of failing. This hopefully is not the third year, but I definitely think they could beat up on the American League Central. I don't think. The Guardians do have a good pitcher, but I think the wild card format definitely gives an advantage to the teams that have a bye. Because I was looking at it this morning, the ace for if the Guardians win and Bieber pitches, he wouldn't pitch until game 2. So you get a better start off, with your game 1 versus probably their 3 or 4 starter, depending on what they do. And then kind of after that, you kind of able to match up. I think for the Yankees case, their starting pitching's good. It's going to be what can the hitting do against the other pitching.
Yeah, I think you got to get healthy, of course, because people like Matt Carpenter, Andrew Benintendi,
Yeah.
DJ LeMahieu, I think when they come back, that's going to be huge. But it does all depend. I also agree. I'm not gonna lie. When it comes to where we'll make it, I think eventually Houston's gonna be the test. But I'm glad that they have a harder first round than we do. And speaking about postseasons, I know it's maybe 2 weeks early. Was gonna ask, what do you think would be the 26-man roster, 13 pitchers and 13 position players?
Yeah. So I have the Yankees roster right here looking at it. Pitching wise, I think, you have your 5 starters. I don't know if they'll go with all 5 though. I think Cole, Severino, and Cortez that's their, I guess,
Lots.
Cole, Nestor, Sevy. That's your 1, 2, and 3, I think, for game 1, 2, and 3.
For sure.
Game 4 now is interesting because obviously with Montas on the injured list, you don't know what you're going to get with him. And Tyone pitched a good game last night against the Red Sox.
Yeah,
So
what
I don't
about
think they'll.
Herman too?
Yeah, and you still have Herman too coming back. So I don't think they'll go with a 5-man rotation in the playoffs. I think it'll be a 4-man. So I would say it's going to be Cole, Severino, Cortez, and then it's going to be picking between Montas and Tyone. I think if Montas comes back before the season and gets an extra start, and I think they'll pick him even if Tyone's pitching well because that's the guy they traded for. So I think they're definitely going to be using that guy.
Yeah.
I do think Domingo makes it, but I think he'll be like a long inning reliever guy coming in there in case something happens, an injury or something like that. It'll be good to have him, especially for the Severino and Cortez starts, because those guys just came back from the injured list. So I think those are the 5, I guess, starters I'll consider, even though I think, either 1 or 2 of them go to the bullpen. I think obviously you're going to have Clay, Chapman, Johnny, Wandy, and Scott Effross definitely in the bullpen. Those are, kind of those guys there. I think Ron makes it. It'll be interesting to see with Miguel Castro what happens to him. I know, I don't know too much about that. Zach Britton, it'll be interesting to see the next couple of weeks. I think he should make it because you can never go wrong with too many good lefties, especially if you get to face the Astros where they have Alvarez and Tucker. You're definitely going to need your lefties for that.
Sure.
I personally don't think Clark Schmidt will make it to the roster for the 13.
I think he'll probably get options.
I think he'll be one of those guys where in case an injury happens, he'll be the first man up, but I don't think he'll be on the cut, at least the first round. It was good for the Yankees that obviously they're 6 games away from the division. So if they could do things right, they won't have to worry about picking guys and everybody could get healthy and then they'll have a full roster to choose from. But I think, you have the main guys. So with pitching, it was interesting too. Lucas Licky, he'll be interesting to see if he makes the cut. I think he'll be, either the 12th or 13 guy. I think Lou Trevino makes it.
Sure. Yeah.
He had a big game last night getting out of that jam. But
Especially trading for him. Like you
yeah,
look at, I don't think Cashman would ever want to have someone he traded for not make
which
it.
is exactly why I think the same thing with Montas too, if he's
sure.
healthy.
Sure.
But hitting wise is where it gets really interesting. Obviously, I think for the 13, you have the starting 9. So I'll just go with catcher first would be Jose, first base Rizzo, second base Glaber, shortstop is going to be IKF, third base is going to be Josh Donaldson. In left field, it's going to be, I'm going to assume, continuing with injuries here, I'm going to assume it's going to be Peraza, Bader, and Judge, and then Stanton will be there. So that's 9, and then you have Stanton as the 9 guy because with the DH. Then with the bench, I think Marwin makes it because of his utility and his speed. I think. Who's the outfielder right now that I'm forgetting?
You said Peraza. I think you meant Cabrera, but I
Oh
definitely
yeah, I meant
understand
Cabrera. Yeah, not Peraza. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
Cabrera. I think Tim Castro makes it. So I think the bench
Pinch
is
running.
going to be Marwin, Tim Castro, DJ will make it. Obviously, I don't think they'll start him. I mean, they will use him, but I don't know how effective he'll be. So that's why I'm not like holding out hopes for him. Then obviously Kyle, the backup catcher. And then the 5th bench spot's going to be really interesting. I don't know who. I think Aaron Hicks could be somebody that could make it, unfortunately, maybe. But Aaron Hicks could be definitely someone that makes the cut. And I think he probably will make the cut because if you look at their depth, it's not anything crazy.
Yeah.
The only thing I think that can keep Hicks out of the lineup is if Benintendi comes back, and I think he's the one that could come back sooner than Matt Carpenter. I know Matt Carpenter's already started baseball activities, but it still seems that his foot is not 100% healed. They did an interview with Benintendi yesterday. They said he's out of the brace. He still has his stitches and he's feeling pretty good. So basically, he's kind of said that he was still a ways away. But it's more about like timing and stuff like that. He has a date in mind, but he hasn't really kind of think about that. He definitely came out a couple of days ago that definitely said the regular season's out of the question. But I definitely think he said that the postseason's going to happen. So I think obviously if the Yankees could get a bye, they don't play until I think it's like the 11th of October. So I mean, you still have about 2 or 3 weeks before you'd have to ramp up and play. So that's enough time where they can when they have their bullpens, Benintendi could get in there. So definitely have more faith in Benintendi. I think that's the only difference right there between Hicks, that 5th spot.
Yeah, no, I had a similar list. I actually didn't adjust it here, but I do after yesterday's game. I have to adjust. I definitely did have Nestor Cortez in there, Garrett Cole, Luis Severino. I think should definitely be a part of it. Herman, of course, Clay Holmes, Scott Efros. I think he should hopefully make it. Ron Marinaccio, Wandy, Jonathan Loizaga. Now, I have Jameson Tyone and Lou Trevino, but my 2 that I had before, which I don't know if I would now, is Clark Smith and not Lucas Lithia, Roger Chapman. As you see, they've struggled recently. Maybe those 2 might not because, like you said, we got to see what Zach Britton gives us. I don't know if they would put him because he would only play 2 weeks, so maybe they don't trust him, but hopefully he does good. And then we also forget, same situation with Steven Ridings if he ever came back up. We don't know what he's going to give us. I know last year was great, but it's going to be tough coming down the stretch with that. And then with position players, I'm not I don't want to say expecting, but if we do expect to have hopefully Matt or Benny, let's say hypothetically first round, I think it's difficult to think about how they will fit in now because Josh Donaldson is heating up. IKF is, obviously hitting every day, and you don't really got spots for too many people because Judge is guaranteed to be a right field, Bader is guaranteed to be a center field, and then like you said, Rizzo is always gonna be the first baseman, Trevino catcher, and then the rest of the lineup is where it's tough because you put Glaber obviously in second because he's probably one of the most on fire on the team other than Judge.
Yeah.
You probably put Josh there. You seen the walk off yesterday at third, and then you put IKF for short. What about DJ? I'm assuming Matt Carpenter also is gonna want some at bats. I don't think he's gonna start. Maybe any games unless it's a matchup, but he'll probably be one of the first off the bench other than DJ. And then when Benintendi comes back, he plays left field. I think Oz definitely plays more of a position role than maybe Marwin. It's tough. It's a tough job for Boone and Cash to decide. And then of course, you're gonna put Kyle as the backup catcher, and I think if Matt Carpenter and Benny are healthy for the first game, I don't see Tim Castro or Hicks because you could put like a
Mhm.
Bader to be quick, but I mean, I don't know how they would do the pinch running. I don't know. It's tough to figure out now. A month ago, you kept saying we need players, and now it's we're trying to subtract players.
Yeah. I definitely don't think, I don't think Carpenter will be back for the ALDS. I think if he comes back, it'd be for the championship series, and then you could kind of see like what bench players you didn't use, what bench players you used. I think for the ALDS, I think Benintendi is way better, more likely to play in that than
Agree.
Matt Carpenter would be.
No, yeah, I agree. And then last night, man, the Miguel and Duhar news. How did you? I was kind of hurt. I'm gonna be completely
Mhm.
honest. Seeing him get DFA'd over other players. You
Yeah, I
know,
mean, it was time. They couldn't trade him. Nobody was really, willing to take the risk on him. So they couldn't trade him. He wasn't really producing. I mean, he didn't get enough consistent at bats to produce. But it had been a couple years since he had shown those flashes of. I mean, since 2018. You think it's recent, but it's really not that recent.
I know.
So kind of, definitely thinking it that way. I think they had to make the move. Yeah, I mean, you would have liked to see like maybe a Lucas Licky get DFA'd or something like that. But I guess for right now, Lucas Licky's still giving more. Um, Important innings to the Yankees than what Miguel Andujar would be. Especially, I think they make this move too, knowing that there's probably a good chance either Benintendi or Carpenter come back, so they wouldn't even need him necessarily for a postseason run. And they DFA'd him so late that another team's, unless it's like an Athletics that are trying to take like a chance, because they're so bad right now. Most teams aren't going to pick him up anyway because he can't even be on their postseason roster. So I don't think there's a good chance he probably slips through the cracks and falls right back into the Yankees farm system.
Yeah, I was hurt because obviously Miguel and Duhar and Clint Frazier both were a part of trade rumors for
Hmm.
Garrett Cole, and it's crazy to look at it now. Both of them DFA'd, and you just think like, what if Cashman actually pulled the trigger on getting Garrett Cole or just anybody else that obviously held him from a deal. Now you're releasing them. That's why it hurt. I thought maybe you could have gotten some trade value out of him if you somehow packaged him with somebody, even if it's a reliever or just
Hmm.
something. So it kind of just hurts that they let him go for nothing. Um, and then obviously speaking about that, what do you think is it's very, very early for offseason, but we could talk about anything here. What do you think are some early offseason predictions in terms of like trade players, like people who you don't think might be on the team, people who contract is up or
Hmm.
re-signing too, but mainly for the Yankees
Yeah, well, I mean, for starters, I think obviously objective number one, re-sign Judge.
for
I think
sure.
the only team that I'm really concerned. I mean, everybody's saying the Mets and stuff like that. The Mets have their own. They have about 4 or 5 key players of their own that are about to be free agents that they're going to
Like
need to take care of
DeGrom.
first. So, I mean, yes, the Mets have the money to do it, but I don't think he'll be a Met. But the most team that I'm definitely afraid of would be the San Francisco Giants. They're a big time. That's a big market over there. They have the money to
He's from
spend.
there.
He's from there. He grew up a Giants fan. So that'd be the only team that I'd be, I guess a little bit more cautious of potentially getting him. But I definitely like our chances of re-signing him. I definitely think he wants to be a Yankee. Like I definitely know the media loves to, create these rumors and all these, narratives. Just, they have to write a story.
Yeah.
But definitely think, he definitely wants it to work out with the Yankees and stuff like that. And plus, they're the Yankees, so I'm not surprised that people are trying to kind of tear them apart and stuff like that. Obviously, a lot of people want to see the Yankees lose and stuff. So,
Jealousy.
it's not surprising. But I think he would be number one. Definitely say, well, you're going to have Cole, Severino, and Cortez back next year. So you have a nice 3. Obviously, Montas is back next year, too. So you have 4. So you could either go through your farm, like Clark Schmidt could finally get a chance to start.
Is JMO a free agent?
JMO is a free agent.
So
He didn't pitch poorly. I wouldn't be surprised if he were to come back. It'd be a cheap 1-year deal, like a prove it maybe, go.
agreed.
But I'm not really expecting him to come back. I know we did trade away a lot of our starting pitching
A
in this
lot of
trade deadline.
prospects.
So I know we're not like, as strong as we once were in that spot, but I definitely think they'll probably give Clark Schmidt an opportunity. I mean, he's our 5th. If that's the case, he'd be our 5th starter, and that, most teams' 5th starters aren't really that good anyway. So
Yeah,
it's not a bad
he's up
5th
there.
starter. I definitely think they need to. I know he was a short stint, and hopefully he comes back for the playoffs. But I definitely think they need to look into bringing back Andrew Benintendi on. I don't think he'll get paid anything crazy, especially since he wasn't able to, perform towards the end of the year. But I think it'd be a nice deal to bring him back, a good lefty bat, good contact. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get out of DJ LeMahieu anymore. I'm a big DJ fan, but with the injuries, it's kind of racking up the last 2 years now, especially towards the end of the season. You're going to need a guy that can hit either before Judge or after Judge with contact ability, so they can't, walk him. So I definitely hope they re-sign him. Players that get traded, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I don't know. I doubt he'll get traded, but I could see Isaiah kind of for Leffert maybe being traded for somebody. Especially if they want to let Peraza. I mean, I think he wouldn't get traded until spring training, because they're going to obviously have probably a competition at shortstop between the two of them. Let the better one win it. But I don't really necessarily think there's many trades. Obviously, for a while, everybody was saying Glaber's going to get traded and stuff. He was not going to get traded. He'll still be here next year. You can't. A, he's young. B, when the team's going right, he's a big piece of the team going right. I think they should. I don't want to say get him out of position, but I'd love to see him maybe play a little bit of third base too. But I guess obviously it didn't really work out that well at shortstop. I'd love to see just a little bit more diversified from him, coming from a fielding standpoint. But he's too good of a hitter. He's too young and he's too cheap, especially now that they're lowering their payrolls to kind of trade him for. Especially, thank God they didn't trade him for Pedro or Lopez from Miami, because Pablo Lopez, because he really has not been that good. Yeah.
They went up.
So I definitely don't think he'll be traded, and because Josh Johnson only has 1 year left. So in another year after that contract, it'd be LeMahieu at third and him at second, and Peraza at shortstop. And I mean, obviously you do have Volpe too, so somebody's going to need to go.
Yeah.
So somebody is going to need to get traded. And I think in a year or two, I wouldn't be surprised if Peraza gets traded.
I agree and disagree on some things. I definitely think that for sure the number one priority, no matter what, is re-signing Judge. That's crucial. Without Judge, this team is pretty much a rebuilding team.
Yeah.
I definitely do think that the fifth starter is crucial. I think with JMO, what they're gonna probably do, I think they're gonna offer him some type of contract, but they're not gonna budge even a little bit.
Yeah.
They'll give him something like you said, a prove it deal, and if he signs, he does. If he doesn't, they're not gonna try to reach. I think someone like a Judge, maybe they'll definitely reach if he doesn't like the offer.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, like you said, Benintendi and DJ, I definitely think we do need to keep those contact hitters there. I would love to have them, in the lineup. But I think I want to say disagreement. I'm not sure about Torres because I've heard that they did try to trade him twice. I'm not saying they should. I think it all depends on what their plans is in the infield. Because like you said, Josh Donaldson has a year left. Has $25 million left in his contract. Isaiah kind of left a contact hitter, but defense is short sometimes has been very shaky. And then you obviously got Peraza, who you brought up, and should I assume next year play more, and then Gleyber Torres, and then DJ LeMahieu, and eventually it's not going to happen anytime to the end of the season, but Volpe is going to come up. So somebody, at least one or two people in that infield aren't going to be there, I think, either next year by the end of the season, whether it's trades or they figure it out. I just don't know who, because I think they want to see what they have. And if I had to pick, I would agree with you on maybe it could be Peraza before anyone else. Because obviously Gleyber has shown, you would rather have someone who has proven it than someone, for example, when you look at Miguel Andujar and Clint Frazier, who hasn't proven it. So it's tough with that. I definitely do think that some way, somehow, the only competition for Judge is the Giants, because yes, he's obviously from there, but I hope that somehow Brian Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner figure it out. But speaking about that with the offseason, another person who we didn't mention who's not a player is Brian Cashman himself.
Yeah.
What do you think would it take for him to either get re-signed or let go? What do you think for both sides?
He will not be let go. There's no chance of him being gone. He'll be back with the Yankees, definitely for the future. Hal Steinbrenner trusts him a lot. He's not really. Recently, he's been struggling a little bit, but I mean, for the most part, he does a pretty good job with the Yankees. Obviously, he doesn't control the money. He gets a budget from the owner, and he has to make that work. So that's not his fault. But for what he's done really good. We've gone to obviously the playoffs the last 6 years. So you can't really complain about everything he's done. Yeah, he's made some questionable moves. But for the most part, he's been successful. So he'll definitely be back. for the future. I think he'll retire Yankee before he gets fired, or has Steinbrenner either gets really fed up, which is probably unlikely. He's definitely more calm than the father. So I definitely think Cashman with 100% is going to be back next year.
I actually agree. I think that no matter what happens, like hypothetically, which I don't see this happening, if the Yankees go on a huge losing streak and somehow end up in the wild card because they haven't clinched the division, which is not going to happen. But hypothetically, if that happened, even then, I still see that Hal trusts him so much, and he's definitely not like his father, and he's probably going to keep him. And I could see Cashman being a Yankee for life, and especially the fact that they've been to the postseason so many times, and as you've seen yesterday, it was the 58th time that they clinched, which is
Mhm.
first of all time, which is crazy. And of course, the 27 championships. Obviously not under him, but the organization's been successful, so I think they'll probably keep him around. But with that being said, I actually want to pose the question: do you think, even no matter if he gets re-signed or not, do you think Derek Jeter somehow, some way gets to work for the Yankees next season in any type of role?
I mean, I know a lot of people, including yourself, were excited when he said he was going to be, you're to see him more often. He did take back that statement in the post game conference. He said, don't read too much into that. So I wouldn't read too much into it. I don't want to
Yeah.
get your hopes up. I think he'll be back at some point, but I think he likes too much of the family life right now to want to give all that up. So I don't think he'll be back anytime soon. If he wants to come back, he could do something like CC Sabathia, where it's just a special advisor and helping out here and there. But I don't think he's going to be any main piece or main vocal point for the front office and in the within 10 years, something like that. So I don't think he's going to be too much of a part of the Yankees going forward.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on the point with CC. I think that I'm not sure if it's going to be this coming season or when, but I think that eventually he has to somehow work in the front office. I mean, maybe it's just me dreaming, but I think if he does, it would be like a CC Sabathia role, where it's kind of a special advisor, not really too big of a role. And I just think he has such a smart mind. Obviously, he was working with the Marlins and part-time owner. Like, he's seen it from that side, and that's why he said what he said in his ceremony about that don't boo, because
Mhm.
he's been with someone who was cheap. And obviously, you look at the Yankees' third highest payroll. I mean, to us, it does bother us sometimes because we don't go for the best. It's just we do go for a high payroll. It's just sometimes the moves don't work out.
And I think with the high payroll, though, it's more of like, why is Josh Donaldson getting 25 million of that payroll? And it's like
And the road is
the
traveling.
payroll is fine, but I think they're spending it on the wrong guys, which
Yep.
does fall back to Cashman. But even what Cashman is lucky about is that even his blunders with the Yankees, you can still take the hits and still build a competitive team. And this is any other team, besides probably a handful of the top five. They're not coming back from a 25 million. I mean, look at the Twins. They had Josh Donaldson for 25 million. They couldn't do anything.
They did. I
So,
agree. They did.
clearly the Yankees are lucky. He's lucky that he is a Yankee because he can, make his mistakes. But for the most part, his good ones have been good.
Yeah. Question about Aaron Judge home run. Where do you think by the end of the season that number will be?
I don't think it'll be anywhere higher than I don't think he'll get past 65 or 66 home runs. It's definitely you could. I mean, I know he's a very calm guy and stuff like that. You could definitely see his presence, but I don't think he is. I think the pressure is getting to him because now every time he comes up, there's a camera following him up there. All the time the fans stand up, they boo. Now I'm not saying it's affecting him. I think it's. I don't think he's being affected by it at all. That based off an ability to play, because if he was really getting affected by it, he'd be swinging at all these pitches in the dirt. But he's still taking his walks. He's a smart hitter. He knows what he's doing. So I don't think it's affecting his play, but I definitely think he's feeling the pressure of doing it in New York. Because I mean, obviously, a lot of the Yankees. I mean, even if you listen to Derek Jeter when he said that 3,000 hit, he felt the pressure because there was only so many games before they went on a long road trip. Before around just 3,000 hit. So I definitely think he feels some type of pressure like that, but I wouldn't say it's affecting his game, which is nice. Boy, would I love him to beat Bonds, but I think that's pretty unlikely. Right now,
Especially
he'd have to go
now.
on some crazy run. I mean, with 2 home runs to beat it, I mean, I would love for him to do it against the Red Sox. I don't think he's really historically been a good hitter against the Red Sox. I don't think his numbers are been like anything crazy. So I know in Fenway they're nothing too spectacular there, but hopefully he's able to, like that pitcher yesterday, he was 0 for 14 with 9 strikeouts against Waka. So hopefully he's able to bounce back. I think I don't know who they're facing tonight, but hopefully they're able to bounce back. I know they'd face a rookie in the 4th game, which would be hopefully that Sunday Night Baseball game, and he is a good player on Sunday Night Baseball. So hopefully he does it this week. I would love for him, if he does it, to break the record at least at home. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does it. I believe the next year's in Toronto, so I wouldn't be surprised if he does it in Toronto.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be honest. I actually had the same number. I was around 65, 66. I don't think he'll go past that unless he does hopefully go on a historic run. But I don't know. I really think that it is gonna be in the Bronx because there's it just has to happen. The history. Roger Maris did it against the Red Sox, obviously 61 years ago, home run number 61. I don't know. It's destined to be, in my opinion. But hypothetically, if you were the one to catch either 61 or 62, what do you think you would ask in return?
It's a good question. I definitely think, obviously, you'd ask for his autograph, whether that be a bat, ball, jersey.
Sure.
I definitely think I'd try to get as many autographs as I could. I think I would try to get, the pitchers, that are there that I like. Probably I'd say the big 3 of Cole, Cortez, Severino. Try to get those ones. Try to get a Stanton. And then Judge, I'd say autographs. Then most likely the ones would be baseballs. I would hope to get like a signed jersey. I think for Judge, I think that'd be cool.
No money.
No, they wouldn't give money either way. They wouldn't do money. No team has ever given money for a ball back. And you'd be a terrible fan if you asked for money for a ball back. I think playoff tickets would be something I'd want if I caught the one that broke it. Definitely would want playoff tickets. But yeah, I don't think I'd ask for anything too crazy. Kind of like what the kid did too. Obviously Judge means a lot to the team, so I definitely want him to have the ball back. I mean, I want to. I think that kid could have gotten a little bit more then, but
Sure.
he could have got a little bit more while still being respectful. I think like obviously what he said was good, but I still think he could have gotten a couple things more. But I definitely wouldn't do anything too crazy.
Yeah, no, I definitely like that. He didn't just get something for himself. He got something for his other people that was with him.
Yeah.
I think mine's would be a little different. I think for sure I definitely need a signed bat by Judge. That's one of them. I definitely would want, I wouldn't say season tickets, playoff tickets specifically. For sure. And then this might be out of left field, but it's worth a shot. Instead of obviously asking for money, I would ask for a follow on Instagram from Judge. Of course, I wouldn't obviously bother him every day messaging him, but it would be nice. Like, oh, I know Aaron Judge kind of, and it would be cool to get that experience. A few more questions. What do you think Judge's contract is going to be? Prediction,
I saw one thing the other day that I didn't I think it was like either Fox Sports or something like that. Well, basically, I think, this one guy said like he would get like a 3-year deal of like $50 million. I don't think Judge would want I don't think Judge would want that type of thing. I think he's looking for more of year stability because he is obviously 30 something years old. So he's not going to want, he's definitely not going to want a short-term deal because he can make a lot of money in that time span. But if he gets injured or, he doesn't have a good career, good couple of seasons, he's not going to get something like that. So I don't think he's going to take that Correa approach.
Sure.
But I definitely think it's about, I think he's 30 years old. So I could see something about either 8 to 9 years. Obviously today, if you look at Albert Pujols, people are still performing in their late 40s, even as a power hitter. And he's just a strong guy that, he could definitely still produce. And especially at Yankee Stadium, if he keeps that approach, he could use that short porch even when he's old. So I definitely think he'll get in between the I'll say 35 to 40 range. It could be as low as 35. But I definitely think the years are more important. So I think like the 8-year deal. What was it, 7 years that they offered or 8 years this before?
I believe it was 7.
Yeah, so I definitely think it was a fair offer the first time. Obviously you're bidding again, a lot of people are like, oh, maybe it wasn't a fair offer, but at that time the Yankees were bidding against themselves. There's no point to, as a front office, you're not going to bid against yourself. So obviously you're going to lowball him early, and then as other teams come in, you take the risk of another team coming in and says, I want to go play there, but when you're a Yankee, it's my dad always says when they come to the Yankees, they very rarely leave the Yankees. And he's a Met fan, so that says something. The only one that I guess in our time that's really left, and rumor has it they knew he was taking steroids, would have been Robinson Cano. So that's probably the only Yankee that's really left after being here for so long. So definitely be interesting to see what happens with Judge. But I definitely think 8 years, around 30 to 40, 35 million to 40 million, somewhere in that time slot.
Yeah, I think he will definitely get somewhere in that range, 35 to 40, and I definitely say it should be like 9 years. He definitely cares more about the years than anything.
Mhm.
I really again hope he does stay, but do you think that by the end of the season we will reach 100 wins? Because there are, I believe, 14 games left, and we have 91 wins right now.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I'm not gonna lie, I did look at this the other day. They'd pretty much have to win every series, and they have some series where I believe they play 4 games. Obviously, this being one of them, and I think they have one more.
The Blue
I
Jays, I
believe it's
think,
versus
too, right?
Texas. I think they play 4 games.
Yep.
So, and one of those is a doubleheader. So they'd have to win each series, by the 2 or 3 games. And they do play some competitive teams. I mean, it's going to be obviously I think we're a better team than Toronto, but it's still going to be tough to go to Toronto and play and play there and stuff like that and win 2 out of the 3. Obviously, they have a good team. But I definitely think it's possible, but I'm not going to say it's likely.
Yep.
But I do think it's possible. I don't see why they can't pull something off and win 100 games. But I don't think it really matters to me necessarily. I know a lot of Mets fans are very excited for them to get to 100 wins, which is obviously something good. They haven't done that too many times in their history. No shade on the Mets. Obviously they're having a good year, but with the Yankees, it doesn't mean anything for them because the only way they'd have to get to 100 wins, and the Astros would have to lose a lot for that to even matter. So for me, they're going to be the 2 seed in my eyes. So the wins necessarily don't matter that much to me. As long as they get the 2 seed, win the division, I don't really care if they finish with 95, 96, 100, 101 if they or 114 if they win out, or 104. I mean, if they win out. So to me, it doesn't matter as long as they lock up the seeding.
Yeah, I think they're actually in a better position in the second seed right now
Mhm.
than they would be in the first. I think that their strongest competitor, at least for this schedule, of course, is the Blue Jays because
Mhm.
they're also trying to fight for the wild card.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, anything is kind of possible for the 100 win. Final question: as of now, what do you think of the trade deadline so far? Is there something that you wish maybe, I don't know, could get taken back, something that you really like? I think I'm gonna just say quickly first
Mhm.
that Bader deal at first was rough because he was in a walking boot, but look at him now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only one I would disagree with. I mean, I know a lot of Yankee fans were very upset when we traded Monty, and I would say I was more shocked when we traded Jordan Montgomery. But I wasn't necessarily upset by it. I didn't think he would be a postseason pitcher for our team, which clearly, he still would have been the 4th or the 5th, and we don't even know who that might be now. So I wasn't concerned about that. I just didn't really mind the move that much because I've supported Jordan Montgomery, but I never thought he was anything special. Obviously, we didn't score for him, so that was an issue. Not his fault, but it just seems like a bad voodoo for the Yankees. With every time he pitched, but obviously he pitched pretty well so far for the Cardinals. But his issue, I think, which obviously he was throwing some shade at the Yankees, saying, "Oh, they didn't want me to throw his 4-seam fastball." And I'm not a Boone supporter, but I think he made a good point saying that they didn't want him to throw his fastball because they're facing formidable lineups in the American League East. I mean, if we're just being honest here, even if they're not, even the lowest seed Red Sox probably could score more runs than I would say most of the NL Central teams with their lineup. So, I mean, I always make the example: what is Brian Reynolds going to do with a high 94-mile-an-hour fastball? He's a good player, but I mean, if Xander Bogaerts gets a 94-mile-an-hour fastball from Jordan Montgomery, it's flying. It's going on to Lansdowne Street in Boston. It's out of here. So I wasn't too mad about the Montgomery trade. Obviously, I was excited that we got Montas, but I wasn't, obviously, you have the history with Sonny Gray, so you already know the last time we got an Oakland pitcher wasn't great.
Oh man.
I also was never high on him. I definitely didn't want him in the beginning of the year. I was not very high on him, more specifically because he played in Oakland. The games don't matter there. He's not. They're not, fighting for playoff spots that come here. I think, especially now, we didn't trade Cole. We didn't trade Frazier. or Andujar, and now they're both not Yankees. So,
DFA.
you take, now, and if I say if we don't win the World Series this year or next year, in 3 years, you're going to go back and look at the trade just like we do now, thing. And let's say Peraza busts, and we're going to be, why didn't we trade Jose, or Oswald Peraza for Luis Castillo and put more prospects together? So, that's now, I think for Brian Cashman, that's going to, hang over his head for a little bit. Benintendi was a great move. It just didn't work out, with the hand, but that's just, you can't predict that happening. That's just baseball. You can't predict that, but I still think that was a great move. Obviously, Yankees fans are a little impatient. They didn't let him play early. Obviously, you get traded from a new team and you got time to adjust, but boy, was he a crucial player for us, for those couple of weeks when we were even when we were struggling, he was still performing well. I definitely like the Scott Efros move. Obviously, he's got a bunch of years of control too, which is great. So he's going to be here for a while. But other than that, I think, I still think they had a good deadline. I think they put it together. Obviously, I mean, look, Montas is really nice for support. But if Cole, Cortez, and Severino do their thing, that's a big three headed in there. And then you just need the fourth to kind of be a buffer, kind of be the bridge between the three, both times. So definitely like where they're at and where they're headed. I do think Castro did well. It was just unfortunate with some injuries that happened.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with the Frankie deal. I honestly did want Luis Castillo, but of course they were asking for a lot. So it couldn't get done. I definitely do think that the Bader deal was probably one of their best because if you think about it, even Cashman said it in his interview. You don't expect Jordan Montgomery to really get a start in the postseason because you might run 3 to 4 pitchers, and he's not really going to be the 3 or 4, maybe the 4. You definitely are going to put Garrett Cole, Nestor Cortez, and then you're going to put Severino or Frankie, and then it's just I don't know, a lot of pitching depth, of course, and then of course the Zach Efros trade I think went well. Trevino, obviously, we're still seeing with him. But yeah, I think it was a pretty okay trade deadline. I really hope it does work out. And then Andrew Benintendi too, contact hitter, and then Gold Glove last year. Bader Gold Glove. I think it really also helped for Judge because he was a good center fielder, but we all know his position is right field, of course.
Yes.
So you're putting him back in that, keep him healthy, and I think Cashman did okay. But that's it for today. If anybody has any suggestions for our next episode, put in the comment. And before we go off, I want to give a special shout out to our boy Eric being loyal and commenting. We noticed you. But thank you guys, and we'll see you hopefully next week.
Yep. Have a good one, guys.